Hello, lovely ladies and gentlemen. Paolo, your host tonight. Again, once more, conversation artificial intelligence. And tonight is a night where you will resonate with this topic because it's being discussed by a lot of people. So, why tonight is important? Because I'm going to talk about a recent interview that I had with Vijay Nadkarni, who basically is the CTO of a research center here in Silicon Valley that belongs to a large corporate based in Detroit that serves the manufacturing industry. And we are talking about artificial intelligence inside the cars. Now, for a lot of you, artificial intelligence inside the cars means Google driverless vehicles, and so autonomous cars. But that's not the only thing. There is much more to that, and if you stay tuned, you're going to find out. So before we go into our three learnings from this interview, what we're going to do is we're going to describe a little bit, just a little bit, how the car industry works, because we need to understand this. It's a huge difference between this industry and, for example, the software industry or other industries. So before we go any further, we need to understand that. So basically, in the car industry, there is a large manufacturers, let's say Ford or General Motors, and they say in the next 5 years, I want to build this vehicle. And then they have tons of suppliers. So for example, the supplier that provides the entire electronics, and that supplier has lots of sub-suppliers. So all of these people, they all have to align and produce things within a certain time. So it's not an industry where you have like a mad scientist or a crazy engineer that invents something and it goes into the car. Forget about it. Forget about it. It's everything planned years and years in advance, and that's the way the things work. So if we understand that, now we understand how machine learning and Visteon Corporation, the company we just work for, interacts in this space. So the first thing is basically how machine learning gets into the car. What is the process that it gets to the car? So Vijay explains us that the first thing is the specific features are defined by the manufacturer. And so, for example, at this point, manufacturers are interested with cars that are partially self-driven, and this is what they mandate to produce, and they work around this concept. So in terms of innovation, companies inside these sectors like Visteon, they cannot just come up with whatever. So they try to do innovation when it concerns really the deep technological implementation of what they're creating. They're not changing the features, the feature level, like if a car does something or another, it's defined by the manufacturer. But what they can do is, for example, write a better program, but a program that requires less memory, that requires less energy, or that requires less hardware complexity inside the car, or that can, requires less data transmission. That's where they innovate. So the innovation here is a very deep into the technical element. The second thing is how innovation takes place. In case the manufacturer has an idea, how that idea can reach the market. Well, in that case, the idea needs to be socialized many years in advance and needs to be agreed upon all the people that are part of this ecosystem. And then a proof of concept is put in place, and then things go ahead. So the first part that we learn is really about how innovation penetrates these sectors. It's very different than other sectors that we use it to, like, things that have to do just with software that usually are driven by some kind of idea. People try something to see if it works. Here it's very different. People don't try anything. People analyze the impact, they plan, and an entire army of companies plan in advance, years in advance. So different situation. The second thing that we really learned is, where is AI in the cars today? What is AI for in the cars? So you might think that it's only because of autonomous driving, but that's not really the case. There are other two areas where AI is used. One area is the area of safety and assisting the driver with safety. So describing the terrain conditions, describing whatever is around the car, and kind of reacting to that and helping the driver to react into that. The second area is the area of infotainment, and particularly it's basically how the person interacts with the infotainment. So the understanding of the speech, the understanding of the context, but even in projecting in a few years what's going to happen is creating an information and in entertainment that the drivers can compatibly with the driving function consume while driving. So for example, connecting with the work and so on and so forth. So that's where a lot of machine learning is going on. We discuss it in details in the interview. So the third thing that we learn is, again, something that has to do on how you get into this industry, how do you really find a job in this industry. And I asked Vijay, how do I hire engineers? So he said that this is concerned because there are not so many people in the industry, so there is a shortage right now of people, and what they try to do is to hire people that have potential. Like, rather than hiring somebody that has lots of pre-existing knowledge, they rather prefer somebody that is smart, flexible, passionate, that shows the intention to become a specialist. And that, I think, is a very important information for everybody that wants to jump into this industry. With that said, if you want to look at the details, really watch the entire interview. All you need to do is subscribe to the channel and you'll be notified when the full interview will be published. In the meantime, it is in your interest to share your impressions. If there are topics that you want us to cover, if there are things that you want us to do a little bit different, just comment below and we'll be happy to consider your comments. Thank you so much. I hope this was interesting for you, and I look forward meeting you the next time that we have another conversation. For the time being, thank you so much and have a good night.